Black Widow is the latest MCU movie. I saw it this Thursday. Of course, it drops tomorrow for $30 on Disney Plus and in theaters. My theaters actually made it back to full capacity. No seat was empty in this theater. Everybody wanted to go see this movie, except for me. I was not very excited going into this movie, simply because this sounded like a shitty idea. Let's make a movie about a character who died, but let's set it in between the last part where she was alive and in between her death. So there cannot be sequels to this movie. And also, let's make it about one of the worst MCU characters. I know people love Black Widow, but I hate her. I love Scarlett Johansson as an actress. She's a very talented actress. She can give very good performances. But you wouldn't know that if you watched her only in Marvel movies, because these are her worst performances. She has no emotion to a lot of her performances in these movies. She says only sarcastic lines. She never has anything else to say. And I was surprised that in this movie she was a bit better. But she was still the worst part about this movie. Let's just get this out of the way. Every issue I have with this movie is not the movie's fault. Black Widow being a bland character is not this movie's fault. It's other movies' fault for writing her this way and making it so this movie also has to write her this way. She's not a real character. And she does go through stuff in this movie, so it makes her more of a character. But my issue with the stuff she goes through is this is something that would have been more interesting to see in other Marvel movies. Not here. It's too late. This character is dead. It is too late to make me feel sympathy for this character, like they tried to do. There are times it worked. But let's start with what I liked about this movie. This is a darker movie. I don't, with the themes, with what these people have been through, the way this movie opens from the way it ends, it is a darker movie. There is humor and levity to this movie, just like there is to every Marvel movie, but it doesn't interrupt the sadness and kind of bitterness and, the idea of this movie being about a broken family. I'm not really going to express how that gets into spoilers, but this movie is about a broken family. She has to reunite with her family, Black Widow, in this movie, and to take down a threat, and that's all I'm going to say. So yeah, it just didn't work for Black Widow being so bland, because all these other characters are so much more interesting. But at the end of the day, that was kind of cool to see that. To see this movie about this broken family, and it really had some good themes. It was really well-paced movie. All the action was exciting and different. It worked really well. It was a fun Marvel movie. I was surprised how much this movie worked and further developed Black Widow as a character. Not in a way to where it makes up for how late this movie is in the game and how bad of a character she's been up to this point. She's better in this movie, though. And I just was really surprised by this movie because it really worked. I was expecting at least for this movie to be straight up bad or mediocre, because it's just like, what is this? But it's actually one of the best Marvel movies, I think, because there isn't a lot of wasted time. It's different in tone, and what it explores through the themes and different characters really worked. I'm going to put in a mild spoiler warning here. I don't think this will ruin your viewing experience, but if you were looking forward to the character of Taskmaster, this may not. This may hurt your experience if that's something you were looking forward to. He is, well, I should say she. Boop. I am going to title this video spoilers, so if anybody got to this point and said, oh, you didn't give a spoiler warning, read the damn title. but since I accidentally spoiled it, Taskmaster is a she, but it adds nothing to the movie. This character is a non-existent character, and what's annoying about it is in the comics, this is one of the greatest comic book villains of all time that they threw away for no reason. This character did not need to be in the movie. This did not need to be a part of the movie because the threat that they were trying to take down in the movie didn't need this other threat in here that does nothing. Taskmaster should have been saved for a different movie that actually required his presence, or her presence, I guess. But yeah, it was just pretty shit of an idea to use this character like this. People have been saying recently Marvel villains have been getting better, but they really still cannot fathom the idea of it's okay to develop the hero and villain. Makes a better story. Luke Skywalker has as much development as Vader does. Why is this such a hard thing to understand for Marvel? I don't know, but it is a problem that does also plague this movie. And I think it's the worst part about this movie, besides the fact that, again, this movie is set between her death and when she was last alive. But I do think that also is to note that is not going to be a problem for people who will get into Marvel after this movie. Because if I was going to show my friends all the Marvel movies, I would not show them this movie after, Spider-Man, Far From Home, all that stuff. No, I would show them this in between Civil War and Endgame. And it will be a lot better viewing experience because of that. And I think that's a good thing. And because it adds depth to her death. I'm not going to say how, but it does. And I think that's beautiful. But I just can't get over the villain. Can't get over how bad it is that this movie was so late in the game. And I wish Black Widow was a better character so that this movie didn't hurt every time she said a stupid line. Because all she does is say sarcastic lines to everybody. She never has a moment where she's truly serious. And in this movie, she has a few of those lines, but for the most part, she isn't really a character.